Good morning, students. Hope you all are doing fine and you all are safe. Okay, last class I taught you the story of Two Gentlemen of Verona by A.J. Cronin. And now I had already taught you the whole story. Now I'm going to read the complete passage and I'm going to teach you and I'm going to explain the meanings of each sentence, okay, sentence by sentence, okay. So now I want you to take your books and turn to page number 1, okay. I'll give 30 seconds. Within that you can take your book, okay. So have you taken page number 1 in your book? So now there is a warm-up exercise given at the very start of the prose and see. So yesterday, as we discussed the story, there were two brothers, right? Nicola and Jacopo. They were very small. They were just 12 and 13 years old, but they were brave, they were brisk, and they were hardworking, and they were loving, right? So they possessed these qualities in their very young age, and they faced a lot of troubles, lot of ups and downs in their life when they were very, very young, right? So you too must have faced some ups and downs, right? See, for those two brothers, they lost their father, they lost their mother, they lost their house. Their only sister was affected with tuberculosis of the spine, and so they met with all the difficulties. So likewise, you would also have been met with so much ups and downs and problems in your life. So I want you to write them down, okay. So mention some unexpected challenges or adversities one could face in life, okay. So mention some of the problems that one can face in life, okay. So according to me, the biggest problem one can face is the loss of their beloved ones, okay. So நமக்கு பாசமானவங்க உரிமையானவங்க நம்மளை விட்டு பிரிஞ்சு போகிறது தான், that is the adversity, biggest adversity that can face in our life. Likewise, there are 4 boxes given, 4 empty spaces given, and I have given you one example: missing of our beloved one, passing of our beloved one, okay. So in the remaining 3 boxes, I want you to write of your own, okay. What are the challenges and adversities do you think are very, very unacceptable and very, very sad, okay. So I want you to write and fill those 3 empty boxes, okay. And next exercise is, what qualities do you think one should possess to handle hardships and overcome them? Hardships are common in life. Every human being goes through hardships in life, right? So we must have certain qualities to overcome those hardships, okay. So we must be brave, and we must have some devotion, sacrifice, sincerity, and maturity to overcome the hardships in our life, okay. So that is what this lesson is trying to teach us. So I want you to fill all those 4 empty boxes, okay. So what are the qualities you have to overcome the hardships? பிரச்சனைகளை மேற்கொள்வதற்கு உங்ககிட்ட இருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த திறமைகள், பிரச்சனைகளை மேற்கொள்வதற்கு தேவையான உபகரணங்கள் எதெல்லாம்? We must not be saddened by the hardships, okay. முதல்ல கவலைப்படக்கூடாது. We must not be saddened. We must be brave and bold. And we must be cool. We must be as cool as a cucumber, okay. So we must be very cool. We should not be tensed all the time, okay. So there are certain qualities we must possess in order to overcome the hardships, okay. So what are the qualities that you have in order to overcome that hardships, okay. So you have to fill those 4 boxes, okay. Okay, so I'll give you again 30 seconds to write to complete those boxes, and once you finish those warm-up exercises, let us move on to the lesson, okay. So okay, have you completed? Okay, I'm going to read the passage. Here is a story about love, devotion, sacrifice, sincerity, and maturity displayed by two little boys in their actions to save the life of their sister who suffers from tuberculosis of the spine. Read the story to find out how their actions give a new hope for humanity. Okay, so the two boys' sister is affected with tuberculosis of the spine. Okay, and they are trying hard, they are trying their level best to save their sister from that disease. Okay, so the author of the lesson is A.J. Cronin. Okay, so let's get started. As we drove through the foothills of the Alps, two small boys stopped us on the outskirts of Verona. They were selling wild strawberries. Don't buy, warned Luigi, our cautious driver. You will get much better fruit in Verona besides these boys. Okay, so now the author, A.J. Cronin, and his driver. Who is his driver? Yesterday I told you, Luigi is the author's driver. Okay, the author is trying in the back seat and Luigi is driving the car. Okay, so now they are driving the car through the mountain range Alps. Okay, yesterday I told you what is Alps. Alps is a mountain range that covers most of the European countries like Germany, Italy and Switzerland. Okay, so they are on the Maladi Vartla. The author and his driver are traveling by a car and suddenly two boys come and stop and intrude them. Okay, they stop them and these two boys are selling strawberries. Okay, so now the author wanted to buy those strawberries, but the driver stopped him from buying so, because the driver tells the author that these strawberries are not fresh. You can get much better fruits in Verona. They were traveling to Verona, right? Veronaன்ற ஊருக்கு போய்கிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. Strawberries அந்த பசங்க விக்கிறாங்க, driver வாங்க வேண்டாம்னு சொல்றாரு. Okay? He shrugged his shoulders to convey his disapproval of their shabby appearance. What do you mean by shabby appearance? Shabby. Shabby means, shabby appearance means uncombed hair, not taken bath for so long, untidy clothes. That is what you called as shabby. Okay, shabby appearance. The beggar looked in shabby appearance. That is an example for shabby. Okay, so I think you got the meaning of shabby. Okay, so since those two boys were in shabby appearance, the driver disapproved to buy those strawberries. அவங்க ஒழுங்கான ட்ரெஸ் பண்ணலை, பார்க்குறதுக்கு அழுக்காக இருந்ததுனால டிரைவர் என்ன சொன்னார், இவங்ககிட்ட ஸ்ட்ராபெரிஸ் வாங்க வேண்டாம், நம்ம ஊரில் போய் மார்க்கெட்டில் வாங்கலாம், அங்கே ஸ்ட்ராபெரிஸ் நல்லா இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாரு டிரைவர். ஓகே, ஸோ ஓகே, one boy had worn jersey and cut off khaki pants, the other a shortened army tunic gathered in loose folds about his skinny frame. Okay, one boy was wearing a jersey. You know what a jersey is? And a cut-off khaki pant, or a cut-off khaki pant. Cut-off khaki pant means the pant was half cut off and it was khaki in color, almost shades of brown. Okay, and the other one was wearing tunic. What do you mean by tunic? Tunic means a loose dress without a sleeve. Okay, sleeveless dress. Okay, and one boy was wearing a jersey and a khaki pant. The other one was wearing a tunic. Okay, and so they had brown skin, tangled hair and dark earnest eyes. Okay, their skin was brown and they had tangled hair. What do you mean by tangled hair? If you don't comb your hair properly, what happens? The hair becomes tangled. அது வந்துட்டு என்ன ஆயிரும், அப்படியே முடியில் வந்துட்டு என்ன ஆயிரும், அப்படியே அந்த சுருக்கு விழுந்துரும்ல, அப்படியே நாட்டு விழுந்துரும்ல, சொட்டையாக விழுந்துரும்ல. So that is tangled hair. So they had brown skin, tangled hair and dark earnest eyes. Okay, so we felt ourselves strangely attracted. Okay, the author, even if they were in shabby appearance, the author was attracted to those little boys. Okay, the author A.J. Cronin was attracted to those boys. Okay, Nicola was 13 and Jacobo was 12. And we bought their biggest basket and then sent off to a town. Okay, now the author was attracted to those boys. Okay, and even though they were in shabby appearance and even though they were not tidy and clean, the author bought a basket of strawberries from those two little boys. Okay, அந்த ரெண்டு சின்ன பையங்க அழுக்கா இருந்தாலும் பரவாயில்ல, என்ன ஆயிட்டாரு, அந்த ஆத்தர் வந்துட்டு அவங்கள பார்த்ததும் அட்ராக்ஷனாக இருந்துச்சு அவருக்கு. அவர் என்ன பண்ணிட்டாரு, ஒரு கூட நிறைய ஸ்ட்ராபெரிஸ் he got from them. Okay, and then now they are traveling, they have reached to Verona. Okay, okay, next morning coming out of our hotel, we saw our friends bent over shoeshine boxes beside the fountain in the public square doing brisk business. Okay, what do you mean by fountain? Fountain. Fountain. Fountain means artificial spring. Okay, செயற்கை நீரூற்றுன்னு சொல்லுவோம்ல, இந்த you can find these fountains in front of RMKV in Tirunelveli. How many of you have visited RMKV? I think most of you would have visited for taking nutrients, right? So in front of RMKV, அந்த நீரூற்று பார்த்துருக்கீங்களா, நீர்வீழ்ச்சி பார்த்துருக்கீங்களா, artificial நீர்வீழ்ச்சி. So அதுதான் fountain. So these author, our AJ Cronin, has reached Verona. Veronaன்ற ஊருக்கு போயிட்டாரு. He was staying in a hotel and next day morning when he came back, he saw those two boys polishing shoes. Okay, they were polishing shoes, okay, for money. Okay, and he was very surprised. We watched for a few moments, then as trade slackened, we went over. They greeted us with friendly faces. Okay, okay, they were polishing the shoes of their customers, and after the trade slackened. What do you mean by slackened? Slackened means reduced. Okay, reduced. அதாவது கஸ்டமர்ஸ்க்கு நிறைய பேருக்கு ஷூ பாலிஷ் போட்டுட்டு இருந்தாங்க ரெண்டு பேரும். ஆஸ் த ட்ரேட் ஸ்லாக்கண்ட், ட்ரேட் லாக்கண்ட் கஸ்டமர்ஸ் வர்றது ரெடியூஸ் ஆனதும் அவர் ஆத்தர் கோஸ் டு த டூ பாய்ஸ் அண்ட் கிரீட்டட் தெம். ஓகே, அண்ட் தீஸ் பாய்ஸ் டு கிரீட்டட் இன் பேக். Okay, I thought you picked fruit for a living, I said. We do many things, sir, Nicola answered seriously. He glanced at us hopefully. Often we show visitors through the town to Juliet's Tomb and other places of interest. Okay, so now the author asks those two boys, I thought you were just selling strawberries. I thought you were selling strawberries for a living. Now you are polishing shoes. So how many works do you do? That is what the author asks. Okay, நான் நீங்கள் ஸ்ட்ராபெரி தானப்பா அன்றைக்கி விற்றுட்டு இருந்தீங்க, நீங்கள் ஸ்ட்ராபெரி விற்று தான் பிழைக்கிறீங்கன்னு நினச்சா இப்போ ஷூ பாலிஷ் வேறு போடுறீங்க, இன்னும் எத்தனை வேலை தான் செய்கிறீங்க நீங்கள் நிறைய வேலை செய்கிறீங்க போலையே. ஸோ தி AJ Cronin, our author, inquires those two boys, and those two boys replies what? They reply that we do many works and we also act as a tourist guide. Who is a tourist guide? When you have gone to Kanyakumari or some tourist places, there will be tourist guides, right? They will guide you to the places that can be toured in that particular place. Okay, so he said we also act as tourist guide. We take the tourists to all over Verona. Veronaவை சுற்றி நாங்கள் என்ன பண்ணுவோம், டூரிஸ்ட்டை வந்துட்டு நாங்கள் என்ன பண்ணுவோம், சுற்றி காமிப்போம். And there is a famous place in Verona called as Juliet's Tomb. ஜூலியட்டோட கல்லறை அங்கே இருக்குது. So that we take our tourists to that place also. That is what the boys replied to the author. Okay, and now, all right, I smiled, you take us along. As we made the rounds, my interest was again provoked by their remarkable demeanor. So what is demeanor? Appearance and behavior. Okay, so now those two boys are taking the author round and round Verona, all the places that can be toured in Verona. And while they were taking them round and round, the author was very surprised by their appearance and their behavior, because they were just 12 and 13 years old, but their maturity was much higher than that age. Okay, so their behavior was very matured. ஒரு 12-13 வயசு தான் ஆகுது, ஆனால் ஸ்ட்ராபெரி விற்கிறானுங்க, ஷூ பாலிஷ் போடுறானுங்க, டூரிஸ்ட் கைடாக இருக்கிறானுங்க, கை நிறைய சம்பாதிக்கிறானுங்க, நல்ல மெச்சூரிட்டி இருக்கு. ஸோ தி ஆத்தர் was very much surprised by the appearance and the behavior of these two little boys. Okay, they were childish enough and in many ways quite artless. Jacopo was lively as a squirrel. Nicolo's smile was steady and engaging. Okay, so Jacopo is the younger brother, right? He was 12 years old and he was very lively as a squirrel. ரொம்ப ஒரு அணில் மாதிரி சுறுசுறுப்பா இருந்தான். And Nicolo's smile was engaging and it was steady. Okay, it was confident. Nicola was very confident and his brother was as lively as a squirrel. And they were artless. What do you mean by artless? Artless means innocent and guileless. அவங்க ரெண்டு பேரும் எப்படி இருந்தாங்க அப்படின்னா சூதுவாது இல்லாமல் இருந்தாங்கன்னு சொல்லுவோம்ல. இன் தமிழ் யூ சே தட் ஃப்ரைஸ் ரைட், சூதுவாதே இல்லாமல் இருப்பாங்க, எப்படின்னு சொல்கிறது, மனசில் எந்த நயவஞ்சகமும் இல்லாமல் இருப்பாங்கன்னு சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல. ஸோ தீஸ் டூ பிரதர்ஸ் வேர் having that quality. They were artless, they were innocent, okay, and they were brisk, okay. And these things surprised our author. Okay, in the week which followed we saw them frequently, for they proved extremely useful to us. If we wanted a pack of American cigarettes or seats for the opera or the name of good restaurant, Nicola and Jacopo could be relied upon to satisfy our needs. Okay, so the author was staying in Verona, right? Veronaன்ற ஊர்ல தான் இப்போ இந்த ஆத்தர் வந்திருக்காரு. அங்கே தான் இந்த ரெண்டு பையங்களையும் சந்திக்கிறாரு. The author doesn't know much of a thing in Verona. வெரோனாவை பற்றி அவருக்கு நிறைய தெரியாது. So suppose if he wanted a pack of cigarettes or if he wanted a seat for opera. Opera means what? What do you mean by opera? Opera means place where dramas take place. Okay, so in those days you do not have theater. Those days there were no television, and in those days there were no films made. There were only dramatics happening all over the place. Okay, so dramatics means நாடக மேடை தான் இருந்துச்சு. இப்போ மாதிரி திரைப்படங்கள்லாம் இல்லை, இப்போ மாதிரி தேட்டர்லாம் இல்லை. So if they wanted a seat in opera or if he wanted some cigarettes or if he wanted the name of a good restaurant, what he will do? He will just turn up to Nicola and Jacopo, these two brothers. அவங்ககிட்ட மட்டும் போய் சொல்லுவார். அவங்க ரெண்டு பேரும் என்ன பண்ணிடுவாங்க, வாங்கி கொடுத்துருவாங்க. சிகரெட்டாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, ஒப்பரா டிக்கெட்டாக இருந்தாலும் சரி. அண்ட் ரெஸ்டாரண்ட்டுக்கு என்ன ரெஸ்டாரண்ட் நல்லா இருக்குன்னு கேட்டாலும் சரி, he will take them. These boys will take our author along. Okay, so these two boys proved much of a help to the author who was staying in Verona. Okay, and during these summer days under the hot sun, they shined shoes, sold fruit, hawked newspapers, conducted tourists round the town and ran errands. Okay, so what did they do under the hot sun? வெயிலுக்குள்ள என்னென்ன வேலை பார்த்தாங்க? They sold newspaper. You know, they hawked newspaper. What do you mean by hawking newspaper? Hawk means sell things loudly going from place to place. ஓகே, இப்போ கருவாடு விற்கிறவங்கலாம் பார்த்துருப்பீங்களா? கருவாடுன்னு என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, கத்தி கூப்பிட்டுட்டே போவாங்க. அப்படி தானே மீன் விற்கிறாங்கல்ல. ஸோ you would say that is not selling fish or selling dry fish. அதை செல்லிங்னு சொல்லக்கூடாது. அதை நம்ம என்ன சொல்லணும்னா hawkingனு சொல்லணும். What do you mean by selling? Selling means the shopkeeper sells vegetables, groceries and spices. Okay, கடைக்காரர் வந்து விற்கிறாருன்னு சொல்லுவோம். ஓகேயா, செல்லிங்னு சொல்லுவோம். அவர் வந்துட்டு கத்தெல்லாம் மாட்டார். அப்படி தானே, வர்றவங்களுக்கு கஸ்டமர்ஸ்க்கு என்ன பண்ணுவார்? He gives the things asked by the customer, okay, needed by the customer. So what the customer asks, that is called selling. But what do you mean by hawking? Hawkingனா என்ன அப்படின்னா கத்தி கத்தி வியாபாரம் பண்றது. For example, dry fish. So the fisherman comes to our streets, he shouts loudly, and then he sells, right? That is called hawking. So these two boys were also hawking newspapers. They were hawking newspaper, they were selling strawberries, they were polishing the shoes, they were acting as tourist guides. So they were doing all the possible works so that they can get money, so that they can earn a little amount of money, okay? So one night we came upon them in the windy and deserted square, resting on the stone pavement beneath the lights. Niccolo sat upright, tired. A bundle of unsold papers lay at his feet. Jacopo, his head resting upon his brother's shoulder, was asleep. It was nearly midnight. Okay? One night, when the author was walking in the street, in the deserted street. What do you mean by deserted? Deserted means unoccupied. Unoccupied means there was no one in that street. Okay? The street was empty. So you, for example, for another example for deserted, now the schools, all the schools in Tamil Nadu have a deserted look. That means what? It is unoccupied. Nobody is going to school, right? You only have online classes like this. You are not coming to school. That means the classroom is deserted. That means nobody is in the classroom, okay? So that is the meaning of deserted. So one day this author, A.J. Cronin, was walking through the street in the night. It was around 10:30 to 11:30. He was walking through the deserted street and he found an unusual thing. What did he find? Jacopo and Niccolo were sitting there. Niccolo was sitting, Jacopo was lying on his shoulder sleeping, and there were some unsold newspaper nearby them. Okay? And okay, why are you so late, Nicola? Waiting for the last bus from Padua. We shall sell all our papers when it comes in. Okay, so what is he saying? So why are you staying so late? இந்த நேரத்தில் நீ இங்கே என்னப்பா பண்ணிட்டு இருக்க அப்படின்னு ஆத்தர் கேட்குறாரு. அப்போ what Nicola replies, sir, there are some unsold newspapers. There is a lost bus which is going to Padua from Verona, and the passengers will buy newspapers, and once it comes, I'll sell all these newspapers to that passengers in the bus. Okay, என்ன சொல்றான் அந்த பையன்? அப்ப இந்த நேரத்தில் என்னப்பா இங்கே பண்ணிட்டு இருக்குன்னு கேட்கும்போது அவன் என்ன சொல்றான்? இங்கே கொஞ்சம் நியூஸ் பேப்பர்ஸ் விற்காம இருக்கு, அந்த நியூஸ் பேப்பர்ஸ் வந்துட்டு கடைசி ஒரு பஸ் படுவான்ற ஒரு ஊருக்கு போகுது. அந்த ஊரில் உள்ள பேசஞ்சர்ஸ்க்கு நான் என்ன பண்ணிடுவேன்? இந்த நியூஸ் பேப்பர்ஸை நான் விற்றுருவேன், விற்றுட்டு நான் வீட்டுக்கு போயிடுவேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறான். ஸோ நவ் தி ஆத்தர் ஹேஸ் அ கொஸ்டின். ஓகே, must you work so hard? You both look rather tired. நீ எதுக்குப்பா இவ்வளோ கஷ்டப்பட்டு வேலை பார்க்குற? Why do you work so hard in this young age? What is the need for you to work so hard at this young age? He said, I am not complaining. நான் அதை பற்றி நான் ஒன்றும் பெருசாக நினைக்கலையே, நான் அதை பற்றி உங்கள்கிட்ட ஒரு பிரச்சனையாக அதை நான் உங்கள்கிட்ட சொல்லவே இல்லையே. That is the reply. I am not complaining. That is not a problem. That is the reply of Nicola. But next morning, when I went over to the fountain to have my shoes shined, I said, Nicola, the way you and Jacopo work, you must earn quite a bit. You spend nothing on clothes. You eat little enough. When I see you have a meal, it's usually black bread and figs. Tell me, what do you do with your money? Next day, the author is going to get his shoes polished. Okay, so he wanted his shoes to be polished. He's going to those two brothers, and the author asked, you was doing many works, right? You were selling strawberries, polishing shoes, acting as a tourist guide. You were selling newspapers. You were doing so many things. You are earning so much. You are earning a handsome amount of money, decent money. But you are not selling on clothes, but you are wearing, ragged clothes. And you are not also spending that money on your food. Whenever I see you have a meal, you are just having black bread and fig. Black bread and fig means that is one of the cheapest food in those times, okay? But what do you do with your money? வாட் யூ டூ யூ வித் யூ மணி? அந்த அவ்வளோ காசு சம்பாதிச்சு என்னடா பண்ணுறீங்க? சட்டை கூட வாங்க மாட்டேன்றீங்க, ஒழுங்காக கூட சாப்பிட மாட்டேன்றீங்க, இவ்வளோ காசு சம்பாதிக்கிறீங்க, அந்த காசை வச்சு என்னடா பண்ணுறீங்க? என்ன எதுக்காக சேமிக்கிறீங்க? தட் இஸ் வாட் our author interrogates those two brothers. Okay, so he colored deeply under his sunburn and then grew pale. He looked to the ground. You must be saving up to emigrate to America, I suggested. He looked at me sideways, spoke with an effort. We should greatly like to go to the States, but here at present we have another plans. Now the author asks him, are you trying to emigrate to America? What do you mean by emigrate? Emigrate means take up citizenship of another country. Okay, suppose you don't want to live in India. Suppose you're studying here, so you're going to a new college, you're finishing up your college studies. Suppose you've got a job in United States of America, or in China, or in Britain, or any other country other than India. You no longer want to stay here and you want to settle in that country. That is called as emigration. Okay, if you want to migrate to another country, if you want to settle down in another country than your parent country or your country of origin, that is called as emigration. So now the author asks, do you both want to emigrate to America? That is what your plan? Is that what you're saving the money for? So the author asks those two boys. No, what they told. We would like to go to the States. எங்களுக்கு அமெரிக்கா போகணுன்னா ஆசை தான். But now we are not saving our money in order to go to the States. We have other plans. We have some other plans. Now the author asks, what plans? He smiled uncomfortably. Just plans, sir, he answered in a low voice. Well, I said, we are leaving on Monday. Is there anything I can do for you before we go? Nicholas shook his head, but suddenly Jacopo said, sir, he burst out, every Sunday we make a visit to the country, to Poleta, 30 kilometers from here. Usually we hire bicycles, but tomorrow, since you're so kind, you might send us in your car. Okay. So now the author is asking, what plans do you have for why you are saving money? And those two boys did not want to reveal their plans. Okay, they did not want to tell their plans for what they are saving money. And now the author says, see, coming Monday, I'm going to my native place. I'm leaving Verona. Before I go, you have helped me a lot, and I too want to help you. So is there anything that I could do for you? So that is what the author asks. And he says, there is a place called Poleta. Poleta is a place which was situated 30 kilometers from Verona. Okay. So every Sunday we go to Poleta and we hire a bicycle. Or a bicycle kadan vaangittu naanga midichi 30 kilometers we go to Poleta. But since you are so kind and you own a car, we would be happy if you lend your car, if you buy your car us to Poleta. So what they asked the author for his car. Okay, now let's see what happens. I had already told Luigi he might have the Sunday off. However, I answered, I'll drive you out myself. There was a pause. Niccolo was glaring at his young brother in vexation. We could not think of troubling you, sir. Okay. So now the author says, Luigi, who is his driver? Luigi is his driver, right? Luigi is his driver. So he has told that, okay, I can give you my car, but the problem is that my car driver has gone on a leave. He has gone for leave. So on Sunday, so how can I give you my car? Okay, no problem. I'll drive my car and I'll drive you to Poleta. So அவர் என்ன சொல்கிறாரு, என் கார் டிரைவர் லீவில் போயிருக்கிறாரு சண்டே அன்னைக்கு, ஸோ ஒன்றும் பிரச்சனை இல்லை, நானே உங்களை கூட்டிகிட்டு போகிறேன். ஓகே, த ஆத்தர் சேஸ். பட் தீஸ் டூ பாய்ஸ் வேர் they nodded in vexation, annoyance, அவங்களுக்கு அது விருப்பம் இல்லை. ஓகே, ஸோ ஆத்தர் கூட வண்டியில் போகிறதுக்கு விருப்பம் இல்லை. ஓகே, பிகாஸ் they do not want the author to know what they do in பொலைட்டாக அவங்க என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க அப்படின்றது அவங்கள ஆத்தருக்கு தெரிய வேண்டாம், இந்த ஆளுக்கு தெரிய வேண்டாம்னு நினச்சாங்க. ஸோ தே were நாட் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டட் இன் கோயிங் வித் தி crowning our author. Okay, so there was okay, we could not think of troubling, sir. We don't want to trouble you, sir. Those two boys told him. I won't be any trouble. He bit his lip, then in a rather put out tone he said, very well. The following afternoon we drove to the tiny village set high upon the hillside. I imagined that our destinations would be some humble dwellings, but directed by Jacopo, we drew up at a large red-roofed villa surrounded by a high stone wall. I could scarcely believe my eyes, and before I could recover my breath, my two passengers had leaped from the car. Okay, so the next day in the afternoon, the author is driving the car. He is taking those two boys, two brothers, along with him in the car, and he thought those two boys would be taking him to some humble dwellings. What do you mean by humble dwellings? No, huts. அதாவது குடிசை, ஓட்டு வீடு, அதை தான் we have to say, we used to say as humble dwellings. இந்த ஆத்தர் என்ன நினச்சாரு, இவன் ஏதாவது ஒரு குடிசை வீட்டுக்கு இல்லை ஓடு வீட்டுக்கு நம்மளை என்ன பண்ணுவான், கூட்டிகிட்டு போவான் அப்படின்னு நினச்சாரு. பட் he was amused and surprised to see a big red house, a big red villa surrounded by a brick wall. Okay, ஒரு brick wall-ஆல சரவுண்ட் ஆன ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு ரெட் கலர் ரூஃப் உள்ள ஒரு பெரிய வீட்டுக்கு கூட்டிகிட்டு போனாங்க. He was unable to believe, okay, because they were poor, they were working so hard. He thought they must be staying in some hut or something like that. He was astonished that those two boys took him to a very grand villa of red color roof surrounded by a wall. Okay. And after a few minutes I followed, I found a grilled side entrance and determinedly rang the bell. A pleasant looking woman with steel trimmed spectacles appeared. I blinked as I saw that she was dressed in the white uniform of a trained nurse. Okay, and after those two boys had gone inside that villa, inside that house, the author followed them without the knowledge of those two boys. Okay, and as soon as he went inside, a woman, a pleasant looking woman, ஒரு அழகான பெண் வந்துட்டு என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க, she was wearing a steel trimmed spectacles, இரும்புல வந்துட்டு ஃப்ரேம் வச்ச ஒரு spectacles she was wearing, and she was wearing a dress of a nurse, and she came and inquired the author, why are you here? The author replied, I just brought two small boys here. I have brought two more small boys here. Oh yes, her face lit up. She opened the door to admit me. Nicola and Jack, oh, I'll take you up. She led me through a cool tiled vestibule into the hospital. Now the nurse is taking our author through a vestibule into the hospital. What do you mean by vestibule? Vestibule means lobby. Lobby na enna theriyuma? Unga veetla paathirukingla? ஒரு ரூமுக்கு போகணும்னா ஒரு என்ட்ரன்ஸ் இருக்கா, ஒரு ஹாலுக்கு போகணும்னா ஒரு என்ட்ரன்ஸ் இருக்கா. ஸோ தேட் யூ கால் அஸ் லாபி. ஓகே, ஸோ நவ் தி நர்ஸ் வாஸ் டேக்கிங் அவர் ஆத்தர் த்ரூ அ லாபி, த்ரூ அ வெஸ்டிபியூல், okay. And at the door of a little cubicle the nurse paused, put her finger to her lips, and with a smile bade me look through the glass partition. The two boys were seated at the bedside of a girl of about 20, propped upon pillows, wearing a pretty lace jacket, was listening to their chatter, her eyes soft and tender. Okay, now when the author saw those two, what the two boys were doing, so he saw them through a glass partition, what they were doing. Okay, so what those two boys were doing, they were sitting beside a girl of about 20 years, okay, and they were having a chatter. Chatter means a series of short, quick, high-pitched sounds. Suppose if you're meeting your relatives and your loved ones after such a long time, okay, so now See, now we are on vacation, okay? Now, after the schools have reopened, you will not be able to see your relatives often, right? So, you will be seeing your relatives once in a year, especially in the summer holidays, right? So, when you see them suddenly, what do? You have that chatter, right? What you will tell them, narrate all the stories that had happened all throughout the year, okay? உங்களுக்கு வாழ்க்கையில் நடந்த அந்த ஒரு வருஷத்தில் என்னெல்லாம் நடந்துச்சோ அந்த கதையெல்லாம் என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க உங்கள் சொந்தக்காரங்கிட்ட சொல்லுவீங்க உங்கள் சொந்தக்காரங்களை ரொம்ப நாள் கழிச்சு பார்க்கும்போது அப்படி தானே அந்த கதை சொல்கிறீங்க தெரியுமா அதை தான் that we called as chatter, okay? So those two boys and a girl who was bedridden, who was lying in the bed, they were having a chatter, okay? Now the author wanted to know who that girl was. Yaar and the pen abindratha, the author wanted to know, and the author asks the nurse who it is, okay? And she was eager to do so. They were, she explained, quite alone in the world except for the sister Lucia. Their father, a widower, a well-known singer, had been killed in the early part of the war. Shortly afterward, a bomb had destroyed their home and thrown the three children into the streets. They had always known a comfortable and cultured life. Lucia had herself been training as a singer, and they had suffered horribly from near starvation and exposure to cold winter. Okay, so once they were living a comfortable life, okay, like we do, we are living in a comfortable life, right? Your parents are earning, and they have admitted you in a good English medium school. So we are living a comfortable life, right? Likewise, those two boys and that girl they were living a comfortable life. But what happened? Their father was a singer, okay? Their father was a singer and he was a widower. What do you mean by widower? Widower means மனைவியை இழந்தவர், okay? Widow means கணவனை இழந்தவர், widower means மனைவியை இழந்தவர், okay? So these boys' father was alive, he was a singer, but he lost his wife, okay? So when the war took place, there was a war going on in their country, and in that war, his father passed away, died in the war, okay? ஸோ ஒரு போர் நடந்துச்சு, அதில் அவங்க அப்பா பங்கேற்றதுக்கப்புறம் என்னாச்சு, அவர் அந்த போரில் இறந்து போகிறாரு. அண்ட் their house was also destroyed by the bomb shellings, and they were left with nothing, and they were thrown into the streets, and they nearly died out of starvation. பசினால என்ன பண்ணிட்டாங்க, கிட்டத்தட்ட சாகிற நிலைமைக்கு போயிட்டாங்க, okay? And these boys hated the German people, okay? So அந்த Germans தான் வார் நடந்ததுக்கு காரணம். ஸோ அந்த Germans மேலே உங்களுக்கு பயங்கர கோபம், okay? And there was a revolt happening against the Germans, okay? ஸோ இந்த ஜெர்மன்ஸ்க்கு எதிராக ஒரு பெரிய போர் மறுபடியும் நடந்துச்சு. அதில் these two boys were joining, okay? These two boys joined in that revolt. And the two boys left their sister alone, okay, and went to the war. And after the war was completed, these two boys returned back, and they were they were surprised, and they were really felt sorry to see their sister suffering from tuberculosis of the spine. இப்போ என்ன நடந்துச்சுன்னா, இவங்க சந்தோஷமாக தான் வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருந்தாங்க. இவங்களுக்கு ஒரு அப்பா இருந்தார். அந்த அப்பா வந்துட்டு என்ன பண்ணுறாரு, ஒரு சிங்கராக இருந்தார், கம்ஃபர்டபுளாக தான் இருந்தாங்க, நல்லா சம்பாதிச்சார். ஒரு பெரிய போர் வந்ததுனால அப்பா என்ன பண்ணிட்டாரு, போருக்கு போன இடத்துல இறந்து போயிட்டார். போரில் இவங்களோட வீடும் உடஞ்சி போயிடுச்சு, பாம்பு போட்டதில் வீடும் உடஞ்சி போச்சு. இப்போ வீடும் இல்லை, அப்பாவும் இல்லை, நடுத்தருவுக்கு வந்துட்டாங்க. சம்பாதிக்கிறதுக்கு யாரும் இல்லை, கிட்டத்தட்ட பட்டினியினால் சாகக்கூடிய நேரம். அதே நேரத்தில் போருக்கு காரணமாக இருந்த ஜெர்மனி மேலே மறுபடியும் ஒரு ரிவோல்ட் நடக்குது, ஒரு ஆகிட்டேஷன் நடக்குது. அதில் இந்த ரெண்டு பசங்களும் கலந்துக்கிட்டு தங்கச்சியை தனியாக விட்டுட்டு போயிடுறாங்க. தனியாக விட்டுட்டு போனதில் என்ன ஆயிடுச்சு, போர்லாம் முடிஞ்சு மறுபடியும் ரெண்டு பேர் திரும்பி வராங்க. தங்கச்சியை பார்த்தா தங்கச்சிக்கு டியூபர்குலோசிஸ், டிபி நோய், காச நோய் வந்துருச்சு. டிபி இன் த ஸ்பைன்னா அதாவது என்ன சொல்கிறது, இஃப் வி ஹாவ் டியூபர்குலோசிஸ் ஆஃப் த ஸ்பைன் வி வில் நாட் பி ஏபிள் டு stand or walk or speak fluently, okay? So that is a very dangerous disease, and once you get tuberculosis, if you are not cured within 3 years, you will most probably you will die, okay? So she was affected with tuberculosis of the spine, and they did not know what to do. And then what they did, they started working, and they admitted to a hospital. So they admitted to that villa. இப்போ ஒரு வில்லாக்கு ஒரு பெரிய வீடுக்கு வந்திருக்காங்கல்ல, அந்த வீட்டில் என்ன பண்ணாங்க, those two boys admitted the girl in that villa and in that hospital, and they have to pay the fees, right? And in order to pay the fees, they were working day and night, all the possible works in order to pay the hospital fees of their beloved sister. Okay, so war can kill your beloved ones, it can destroy your house, but it never can destroy your spirit. Okay, life's hardships, you can face hardships in life. துன்பம் துயரம் என்பது எல்லோருடைய வாழ்க்கையில் சம்பந்தப்பட்டது தான். Everybody has ups and downs in their life, but you must overcome them. You must have the willpower. You must be strong-minded. You must be dedicated. You must work hard to overcome poverty, to overcome any hardship that is in your life. Okay, so now we are in 12th standard. So here you would be having a public examinations, right? So you must work hard, even though you are not able to study like some of the students who study well. You must work hard. You must overcome the hardships. That is what this lesson specifies. Okay, so now I want you to turn to page number 5, and there are some glossary and there are some meanings, synonyms. So I want you to by heart all those meanings, and I want you to write the meanings thrice. Okay, 3 times, each meaning 3 times, and I will check the homework when you come to meet me in person next week. Okay, next week you will be coming to submit your homework, right? At that time I will be checking. Okay, and in the next video I'll be solving all the exercises that is given at the end of this lesson. Okay, so hope you understood this lesson, and if you have any doubts, or if you want me to change my method of teaching, or if you find any problems in the videos or anything that you want to ask me, you can mention your queries in the comment section so that I'll be seeing it and I'll correct it in the next video, and also I'll clear all your doubts in the next video. Hope you have a nice time. Thank you. Bye.